just to have a backup. Awesome. So we can start anytime. We're recording.
Great. Good evening and welcome to the March 2021 School District 46 Board of Education regular meeting. Tonight, our board focuses on our values of collaboration and equity. And I want to acknowledge with gratitude the lands of the Sechelt and Squamish people on which we gather this evening. I would like to provide a special welcome to all of our guests and audience members. However, we're experiencing some technical difficulties. We do want to answer your questions and they are important to us. If you're watching this at a later date, you can still send your questions related to the agenda to questions@sd46.bc.ca and we'll find a way to answer them for you. So moving on to item 2 in our agenda, celebrating education. Superintendent Bocking?
Thank you. Welcome to everyone, and Director Bishop, would you like to introduce our guest for us? Thank you.
Absolutely. It's the time of the year again where students are out in the schools doing their course selection at the secondary level, and we have a great pride in the some of our career-related programs that we're able to offer in our district. So I'd like to introduce Kathy Gordon, our District Career Coordinator, to introduce our guest for tonight. Kathy?
Thank you, Paul. We've finished our Train and Trade Pro Cook course for this school year. However, I'd like to introduce Tim Bedford and Chrissy Seymour, and they're new hires for the Elphinstone Secondary School to have this program. And then I'm also going to introduce Mitsu Yamamura, and he's one of our students that was in the program. So I'm just wondering if Chrissy, if you'd like to speak first, please. And just tell us a little bit about your career path and your expectations for the students as you teach the career class, cafeteria class that you have right now with grade 9s.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Chrissy. I feel very honored to be part of the Elphinstone Community Secondary School. My career started very young, and I've been cooking for a very long time, but I ended up opening a food truck in Vancouver called Pig on the Street. And I went to BCC and I did the program that actually Tim's teaching now to the Pro Cooks. So I did that. And then I opened a food truck in Vancouver. And opened that and went on to do a couple competitions. I did Chopped Canada and did a couple of things like that. And then I've been opening different restaurants and breweries in Vancouver for the last few years. Then I went on mat leave and had my baby and decided to move to the Sunshine Coast, where I feel very lucky that I managed to get such an amazing opportunity with Elphinstone, and the students are incredible. The Pro Cooks literally blew my mind with the amount that they learned in the time that they were with me and Tim. And now the grade 9s are like, yeah, they're a whirlwind. They're fun. They're so much fun. And they're all like super keen. And my expectations for them is basically just to keep learning. There's obviously some that are more interested than others, for sure. But I think for the most part, they all like getting in there, and it's a bit like gym class in a way, like you just kind of like get in there and you do some activities, and it's a bit more hands-on than just being in a classroom doing academic learning. So I think that I feel that they're enjoying just the kind of active part of the class, and it seems like they collaborate really well. And we have other students like Josh, for example, that comes in and out. And it seems like the rapport between all of the students and him is great. And when Mitsuo comes in, which is great, thank you Mitsuo for coming in every day. I really appreciate it. Sometimes you'll see me kind of like doing the lunches and like crazy, it's like so busy in there, and he steps in and like, he's meant to be in a kitchen for sure. So yeah, it's been a great 6 months for me, and I hope to see you know, a great future for the kids and for myself.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time and speaking and sharing your time with us. And with the train and trades programs, we are partnered up, we being the school district is partnered up with post-secondary schools to offer the level 1 training. And School District 46 this year partnered up with Vancouver Community College with Chef Tim. And Tim, would you like to say a few words about your career path and then about your experience teaching the Pro Cook class?
Sure, thanks, Kathy. Well, firstly, thanks for having me. It's, you know, it is a whirlwind class that we teach. My experience, I don't know, I've been cooking for 21 years. I started in Vancouver and then I traveled around the world and then I came back to Vancouver and then made my way to the Sunshine Coast about 5.5, almost 6 years ago now. Bought a restaurant, bought another restaurant, started another company and started teaching here. So it's been a busy 5 years, but yeah, our class was a whirlwind because we really get done what you're supposed to get done in about 7 months in the VCC downtown campus in about 5 months. So between this year with kind of, you know, all the strangeness of COVID and as well as, you know, trying to run this condensed course for the first time at Elphinstone, I think the students did really amazing. And each one of them worked really, really hard and had their own positives and their own struggles. And at the end of the day, they all came through successfully, which was amazing. So I think the program itself, you know, sometimes the content is focused on a lot, but really what the big thing that the program teaches them is what it takes, A, to be in the industry as a cook, and B, the focus that they need at a level that's not just maybe some of their high school courses, because we're doing so much in such a small period of time. So we really give them the focus of learning to, you know, put their mind to one topic and really get their knowledge grown at sometimes a much more exponential rate than they might do having 4 or 5 different courses at once. But yeah, we were really lucky. I was really lucky to have Chrissy and the whole team, and all the students were amazing this year. So it was a really good experience for me overall.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tim. And Mitsuo is a student, like I mentioned, who was part of the Pro Cook course. And Mitsuo, would you like to speak a little bit about your experience?
Sure. Well, it is fantastic. If it's definitely going to be one of the positive things that I take away from high school for sure. And it is a really fantastic course that is quite enjoyable to do. Yeah.
And you've shared a little bit with me about what you want to do next. And so Mitsuo is signed up as an apprentice now. And what are some of your aspirations after?
I like to pursue the second level of the course. That's definitely a goal. I'd also like to get off the Sunshine Coast with cooking. That's kind of my goal for now, right now.
Yeah.
To do.
And that's wonderful. It's also wonderful, Mitsuo, that you take your own time and go and help Chrissy in the cafeteria. So you've really found your passion. And do you think that the course did help you to find your passion in cooking? I know you were cooking and working last summer, but did that help develop your passion?
Absolutely. It definitely had a different light than most things. You know, I feel like in high school there's a lot of pressure to like go to university and pursue that route, but the course really showed me that there's different options out there, and it showed me a different option that I'm choosing to pursue.
That's just wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mitsuo, Tim, and Chrissy, for taking time this evening to speak to the at this meeting, at the board meeting. Does anyone have any questions for us? Yes.
Trustee Leach, go ahead, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. I just have, is it Mitsu? Is that how you pronounce it?
Mitsuo, yes.
Yeah.
Mitsu. I have two questions for you, Mitsu. One is, what is your favorite thing to cook? And the other is, who is your favorite chef?
I really like to cook pancakes, and my favorite chef is probably Tim Bedford.
He's totally sucking up right now. You're out of class now, you know. You don't have to say that anymore.
You already passed. You don't need to do that.
Apart from Tim, there must be somebody, Jamie Oliver or somebody. Never mind. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. That was great. Thanks.
Are there other questions? Well, seeing none, I do want to thank Kathy, Chrissy, Tim, and Mitsu for coming tonight. And it was wonderful to hear more about the program, especially since it's been over a year probably since any of the trustees have enjoyed the wonderful food that the career program often provides to us during school events and special occasions. So we're certainly looking forward to being back in the school and enjoying a meal with you all.
Thank you. If I could just say one thing, we are at this point taking registrations for the train and trades programs, the auto service mechanic and pro cook and the carpenter course. We're hoping to have all three run next year. Yeah, so thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on to item 3 in tonight's agenda, which is public question period. So Ms. Reimer, I understand that we do have some questions tonight.
Yeah, we do have 2 questions. The first question reads, it's been a year since the school board canceled our trip to Greece and Italy. My family is still waiting for a refund of over $10,000. There is word that other school districts have applied to their own insurance companies to reimburse families. What is our district doing at present to help families get their money back?
Well, I can start by saying that the board did write a letter, and I know that Superintendent Bocking has as well, and I'll pass it over to him to provide a further update.
Thank you, Chair. It's we all sympathize with the challenges of the families who weren't able to use those funds for that special trip, and definitely want to see that resolved. It's been extremely frustrating. The board has written a letter. I've written 2 letters, and we are in regular communication with the trip provider, Explorica, and with the insurance companies. And we have checked with school protections to see if we can offer similar kind of support that we were told was offered in an Alberta jurisdiction, where they have some form of insurance that they were able to support families with. We checked, and that's not something that is possible in our context. And so we will continue to advocate and support the parents as best we can. And at the present time, there's very little that can be done because it is in the middle of a court case I believe based in Ontario. And so that's where it is right now.
Thank you, Superintendent Bocking. Ms. Reimer, are there further questions?
Yep, there is a second question here. Actually, it's a very similar question. It's been a year since Travel Club's trip to Europe was canceled. Still 65 travelers are waiting for their refund. I've heard that Jasper Place High School in Edmonton, Alberta received a full refund check from the school board. The school board used their secondary insurer and processed their remaining refunds. Is this something SD46 could look into to help our students and families?
Right, so I think that Superintendent Bocking did address the answer to that question, which is we did explore that as an option, and our insurance is different from what is offered in that school district.
And that's all the questions.
All right. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda for the March 10th, 2021 meeting. Trustee Ruth, seconded by Trustee Gerard. All in favor? Carried. I'm looking for approval of the prior meeting minutes of the both regular and closed meeting from February 10th. Trustee Haynes, Trustee Ruth.
Nope.
Is there a discussion? Oh.
Yeah, I guess I can second it, but there is a discussion.
Okay. Oh, Yeah, all right.
I am put in attendance for the operations committee meeting, and I was not in attendance to the operations. I'm assigned to the education committee. I just wanted to. Yeah. Otherwise, everything's great.
Are there any other amendments or changes that need to be made? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. All right, moving on to item 6, reports, and we'll start with the superintendent's report. So on to you, Superintendent Bocking. And you continue to be on mute.
As I was saying, my apologies. Many exciting things are happening this month and have happened in the last month. So I'm really excited to be bringing some of those items forward. And first, I will begin with a couple of stories from our Coastal Voices 10th Anniversary Edition. We are in grade 4 now, and the first poem is called Wild Is. Wild is beautiful, dangerous, fun and surprising, and has lots of things in stock for anyone who wants an adventure. Wild chirps, howls, hisses and growls, wild itches and stings. Wild flaps, pounces, runs and cries, howling winds, stormy nights, wild rains, wild sprouts, blooms, grows. Wild is beautiful, fun, exciting, and full of surprises. That was written by Dominic Appleton, grade 4, Gibson's Elementary. And the other one is timely. It's called Recipe for Spring Break. Whisk 1 cup, actually this goes well with the celebration of education as well. Whisk 1 cup of sunny days, 3 cups of fun, plop 3 tablespoons of riding my bike, crack 1 tablespoon of jokes, bake 20 minutes, glaze it with sleep. That's written by Zoe Gregor, grade 4, also at Gibson's Elementary. Just some of the great literature coming out of our schools. We'll just move on right to the board report. So beginning with goal 1B, report cards were sent home on March 5th and schools will dismiss 1 hour early on Wednesday, March 10th. So that was today and tomorrow, March 11th, for the opportunity for parent-teacher meetings. The vast majority of meetings are held virtually this year, of course, and with phone calls. And there are occasions when it's important that there are face-to-face meetings and there are staff set those up in a very careful way, of course, due to the pandemic, make sure there's the appropriate physical distancing, masks, and things like that. But sometimes that is important to be sitting down as a group to work things through. We do have a practice in our district to have no more than 4 people in any given meeting to make sure that we are as safe as we possibly can be, and those have been going well. It is welcome to kindergarten time. Registration is now open for families to join these 2 wonderful and supportive transition programs, and they'll kick off in April. There's a bit of a summary there on the image that summarizes the different pieces that are happening beginning on April 12th, for instance, for Kinderspark, which welcomes students designed to support learning, friendship, and fun. And it's a fantastic program that to some degree we take for granted here on the Sunshine Coast because we've had it for so long. And it's not normal in school districts to have these kinds of early learning programs. So I'm just so excited that we're able to continue to maintain these. And of course, as we all know, great appreciation to District Principal DC who coordinates this, works with the staff and makes it happen and communicates effectively to everyone for it. We have another exciting pilot project happening in our district this year, which is the Seamless Day pilot project. It's beginning in March, in fact, very, very shortly, with a small number of students, just 3 or 4 to get started. It's at West Seashell Elementary, and it's using a Ministry of Education grant. We are hoping, of course, to continue it through the 2022 school year. It's an innovative program that welcomes young students to before and after school care with an early childhood educator. The program will be monitored for effectiveness and efficiency and may then be extended in future years. We certainly hope so, because it's a model that's been around for many years in other provinces, and we are really pleased that the ministry is supporting it and look forward to it continuing. The Sunshine Coast online program has been a really important support for many of our families who weren't ready to send their children to schools during this pandemic. At this time, and in anticipation of the province being in a far better place with respect to the pandemic in September, we will be discontinuing the Sunshine Coast online program for K-9 students at the end of June. Parents were notified at the beginning of this school year that their children would be able to return to school, to the school at which they were enrolled as of June 2020. So that was a concern that we did hear from parents, that if they don't go to school this current year, does that mean they've lost their place if they're a cross-boundary student or something like that? So we made sure that that was a reassurance, so that as we were doing everything we could to reduce stress on families, we felt that that was an important step to take. So they have received a message about this, and we expect that they will be connecting with their home schools, or their principals from those home schools will connect with them. We've set that up as a communication structure. February 24th was Pink Shirt Day. This year's theme was Lift Each Other Up. Empathy, compassion, and kindness, of course, are important to us. When you're being kind, everyone is included and accepted for whom they are. Kindness is always a choice worth making, and our schools always find creative ways to show their commitment to kindness and lift each other up. You can't help but smile looking at all those happy faces on the pictures. The story behind the art. Students and staff members from Langdale and Cedar Grove have enjoyed the traveling gallery of Salish weave prints by Coast Salish artists. The students encounter the prints through experience and sharing, facilitated by our Indigenous learning staff. This is particularly poignant with Monday being International Women's Day. The gender equality in the workplace. The ITA, the Industry Training Authority, is developing a strategy to shift the gender balance of the trades training workforce from its current landscape, one that is predominantly populated by men, to one that is more diverse and inclusive. We are proud of the many opportunities that our students have, as our staff encourage everyone to try new skills that can lead to exciting futures that are freed from a focus on gender stereotypes. I'll ask Director Kerr to speak to this item.
Thank you. We've been really fortunate since January to have a running series with 30 of our educators, counselors, teachers, EAs, to work through a webinar series called Trauma Sensitive Practice in Turbulent Times with Kim Bartel. And as you see, it hits a lot of our strategic plan goals in terms of healthy and inspired team, professional development, a focus on inclusive practices, and also that piece around our staff being leaders in their work. So this series, we trialed this way of doing it in terms of we would watch the webinar on our own, and then we would come together to have a conversation in a community of practice. And it's been really fulfilling with really rich learning. You know, Superintendent Bocking talked about kindness Day in February, and that idea about resilience and that connection with relationship and how our staff are self-aware and how we are regulating and being able to co-regulate with the students and other staff that we are working with. And so we have had such positive feedback that we will also be offering it over the spring break as a series for our education assistants, facilitated by 2 of our counselors. So fortunate to have that. Thanks. This is me too. So This is clever, and it is very clever. We hope it's very clever. It is. One of the pieces around this is that we had feedback and the sort of the qualitative data and the anecdotal data from our inclusion support services teachers was around that piece about our referral system and workload and workflow. And so we did a lot of research in terms of where could we look to find something that would support us, and not only support the efficiency of workflow, but also that access to data. So how do we have that so that our principals have access to the data around referrals and what's happening, and our inclusion support services teachers, our counselors, and our district staff as well. So by increasing the efficiency and allowing for the real-time data, it allows for staff to spend more time with students with more relevant information, and we're able to be more responsive. Now, I have to say that while implementing something like a program is all well and good, it's actually the process to get here that has been so rich, because it has been co-created and discussed, and how do we run our school-based team meetings? How does that link to our referral process? And so it's actually been the process, and that process as we move into that system, which hasn't gone live yet. We're hoping just after spring break that we'll be able to start piloting as a live system, has been really, really good learning for us all to move through that process.
Thank you, Director Kerr. One of the really important goals in the board's strategic plan is numeracy, and we have important supports that are in place for teachers for their training. Math Up is an online tool designed to support teachers in learning and teaching math. National expert Marion Small has done an exceptional job of helping our educators teach with intention, ask rich questions, teaching three-part lessons, consolidating students' learning, and gaining math content knowledge. Our intermediate teachers have met monthly with Mark Garneau and Selena Miller to engage in collaborative exploration of math support as well. It's a very active numeracy committee that we have that develops these ideas, and based on the data that we have and which teachers are asking for which kind of support and what the needs of our students are, we're able to provide that support in a very directed way. Director Kerr?
So with the fortunate use of Zoom, historically with our Askable Adult workshops and our partnership with Shift Education, PACs would often bring in those opportunities for parents school by school. And so knowing that many of our schools are having body science and sexual health provided by Shift Education, and with that support, we wanted to put something on at the district-wide level. So we actually offered 4 different workshops. One is going on right now during the board meeting. So we have a primary age group, an intermediate age group, a secondary age group, and a neurodiverse learners age group, or not age group, sorry, for neurodiverse learners of all ages. And we had 120 families register for these workshops across the district. And for the primary, intermediate, and secondary ones, they will be or have been recorded and will be on our district YouTube channel. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kerr. And finally, we have the Nicholas Sontag Marine Education Center that is providing for grade 3 and grade 6 programs. The grade 3 program is Biodiversity of the Salish Sea, and the grade 6 program is Human Impacts on the Salish Sea. 10 grade 3 classes across the district are currently participating in the Biodiversity of the Salish Sea program with the NSMEC, and grade 6 students are just going to be beginning their program in May. We had a little bit of a challenge, of course, over the last year to continue with this programming, and especially introducing the grade 6 part of it because we couldn't go there. And the Marine Education Center has worked closely with BCH to make sure that our students are able to attend to the Marine Education Center safely. And we have them also being transported, of course, with buses that are properly taken care of, properly addressed in terms of health and safety as well. So it's a fantastic program. We're so fortunate to have these people who are so passionate about the Marine Education Center and the Salish Sea and our responsibilities as custodians of this very special area. So really proud and pleased to have this partnership with them. So lots of wonderful things happening. If any trustees have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to do my best to respond to them.
Trustee Ruth.
Yeah, I just read about a different district that they had their online learning program, and it was basically from a parent's point of view, and they had their child came home from I guess they're back into the school, but their child came home and they were basically in tears because their grades had dropped so badly from the previous year, and they were only graded on 4 out of the 9 programs that they had taken. Now, again, this is a different district and it's a very large district, but I'm wondering if we've had any fallback from our own online program in that respect for students' education.
It's definitely early days to know the full extent of what the different experiences of all of our students are going to be. Certainly the expectation and the practice at Sunshine Coast Online is to provide the full curriculum. We've never discussed just doing part of it. The way it's offered, of course, is different. The partnership with parents is far more intense, especially at the younger grades, because we do go kindergarten to grade 12. And so seeing what that's going to be like, especially on the mental health end of things, is something that we're wondering about. How is it going to feel for a 6-year-old who hasn't seen anyone of his or her age until next September? What is that going to be like? And I know that's something that Director Kerr is very interested in supporting as we move from now into the new year as well. So that's probably one of the bigger things that we've been thinking about, and how to support that part of it. But the academic progress of our students, of course, is a serious issue as well. We do have a number of students who have moved from Sunshine Coast Online back to the regular schools, and I haven't heard that transition has been a problem. So people are moving along. I know we've got a wonderful group of teachers, and Principal Krista Riv has done a great job of bringing the team together, and I know how intensely proud she is of the work that's been going on. So I can't speak to the experience of the other district, but we're certainly doing everything well we can to support our kids.
Can I do a follow-up, please?
Of course, go ahead.
So if come report cards and come September, if we find that there has been, a remedial type issue happening with the students, is there anything in place for our teachers to work with those students, and so those students aren't punished? This one specifically in the paper was about the student wanted to go to a certain program, and now they won't qualify for that program for next year. Again, different district, but just, is there something in place for us to help our students if they have fallen behind?
I'll make a couple of comments and then ask Director Kerr to speak to that as well. In terms of special support, in general support, our teachers are used to dealing with students who come from a wide range of backgrounds. So whatever the background is, students come to our teachers, and a grade 3 teacher, for instance, knows that they are going to be dealing with kids who are more prepared for grade 2 than grade 3, and some prepared for grade 5 because they have very high reading levels. So it's normal to assess kids when they come into the classroom, find out where they are, and do everything we can to support them moving along at their level. And so that's normal practice for any teacher, regardless of the reason. So that would continue for sure. And perhaps more on the inclusive education end of things, Director Kerr, would you have any comments about moving kids along who might be struggling?
Well, I think part of the plan in terms of that reentry piece will be taking a look at the specific students that are coming back. And so that we are having a mindful approach and a specific individual approach for those students that we know that have been learning online for a period of time. And that won't be only for our students that have individualized education plans, but we will be looking at that in terms of all students who are returning. And one of the things that we've put in place as well is we've ensured that there has been some inclusion support teacher time to that online program, so that we are, and they're still having school-based teams as if they're existing in a building, and so that we're really recognizing some of the stretches that some of our students are having, that we need to ensure that we're prepared for in September with our staffing as we're coming up into April. And I'd also like to mention that this morning, for example, and I don't know if Director Bishop would like to speak a little bit to this, but in terms of the planning with our secondary counselors and our secondary principals and vice principals, they are also starting to look at and where are those students in the programs that they've completed? What does that look like in terms of the courses that they'll be able to enter in September? So again, that really individualized magnifying glass, you could say, on each of those experiences, and counselors are aware that they need to be able to be looking at that. And I don't know if Director Bishop, you would like to add to that meeting we had this morning.
Chair Emerald, absolutely. This was, you know, again, a great thing about a district our size. We were able to have the principal for our programs, sort of our online programs, meeting with all of our other high school and elementary school principals. So we're able to do a really conscious handoff of students both in and out of the programs. And you know, we work, you know, closely to support students, you know, again, taking individual online courses. You know, obviously this is a much bigger shift because of, you know, some of the requirements that have been put forward to us with, you know, really wanting to support kids in a wholly online environment. But, you know, allowing our principals to work closely together with the counselors. We've already started that process. The secondary principals have included the online students in their course selection process. So all of that handoff, you know, pieces have already begun. So we're looking again forward to, you know, ensuring that those that process is handled in a very thoughtful way. Thank you.
And maybe I'll just roll into that as well with the foundation skills assessments are just being wrapped up this week for grades 4 and 7. It's going to be interesting across the province and across the world to determine what kind of an academic gap that this pandemic has created, linked to all of that, and what we need to do to bring all the kids up in terms of their academic achievement if there has been a struggle. And at the secondary principals meeting this morning, we heard principals say that in some of the formats that they are working on, it's actually, they're feeling really good about the students having very few real failures or incompletes. They're working very well in those programs. So they're pleased in some ways about what's going on.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Trustee Leach.
It's not really a question, just a comment about from your report, Superintendent Bocking, about and Director Kerr. I mean, I attend the provincial meetings around the BC School-Centered Mental Health Coalition, and now a new provincial network on K-12 staff wellbeing. So I often hear at those provincial gatherings about SD46 and our social emotional learning for students. Now I'm starting to hear about that we're being known for our staff well-being. So I say who I am, a trustee from School District 46, and then people will respond and say, well, you're the district that's doing all the staff well-being. So yeah, we're getting known for that as well as for our student social emotional learning. So I thought I should mention that good bit of news for our district.
Thank you. Other questions and comments before moving on? All right, so it's item C, administrative regulations.
If I may, I do have the strategic plan report, so maybe I'll just go through those and then we can move on to the regs. So just to highlight them because there are 4, and we've already discussed them in committee. So just to review that, we have the Numeracy Report, which is, once again, our students will be numerate. They will have the skills and tenacity to interpret and apply mathematical understandings in flexible, functional, and creative ways. It's a priority for the ministry, along with literacy, of course, to have those as basic skills, and that's why they have the grade 10 and 12 exams for this purpose, to ensure that all of our students are at a certain level. And so having our district committee committed to making sure that our teachers and students are supported well, we have confidence, and that competence is a very important part of our work. So we are continuing, along with a number of other items in the report and the discussion of the committee, to promote the joy of numeracy and encourage parents and students to develop positive personal mathematician identities. And there are some other pieces there, including supporting Indigenous ways of knowing in numeracy and using data to drive and inform our focus on professional learning in the district. So there are a number of other items. Yeah, I can pause briefly if any trustees have any questions about numeracy.
Doesn't look like there are any, so proceed.
All right. The next strategic plan report is professional development. Our staff will be fully supported for the work that we ask of them and that they ask of themselves through research-based professional development. And I have to say to the board how incredibly proud I am to work in this district where you as a board are so supportive of professional development. It really makes a difference. Sometimes we can even have a bit of a traffic jam where there's so much being offered that people have to be selective about the whole candy store, about what they can choose and what they can, just to make sure they're not doing too much. But we are in a very fortunate place for our staff, to be able to pursue their professional aspirations, and that's how our students perform as well as they do. In another meeting this afternoon with the ministry, a question was asked about what kinds of specific things, how do you tie a specific activity, whether a particular workshop, a particular activity, or a particular investment, to a particular outcome, like grade 10 kids are doing better this year than last year because we held this series of workshops or something like that. And we talked about that and discussed that it takes a culture to raise student results. It takes a focus on this kind of thing, professional development. It takes a focus on making sure that we're working in clean and well cared for facilities. It takes a culture of care and respect and kindness. And it takes all of that to raise everything up. And professional development is one of those, whether it is about some specific program areas or whether it's about social emotional learning or mental health and making sure everyone is doing well. All of that together is what makes those results for kids. And we're seeing that success in our district. So there's much more about professional development. We continue to report on professional development on almost every goal that we bring forward, because we're always learning, whether the board is learning or our teachers or our support staff. It's very much a learning organization. The next report is positive partnerships. The goal is 2E. Our staff will engage in positive partnerships with students and their families. Family engagement in their child's learning leads to happier, healthier, and more successful students. We support family engagement through communication structures and initiatives that ensure those positive partnerships with students and families. And I always think of our families as our first partners in amongst all of the partners that we have, and that's the next report. Our parent group is the most important partners in my mind, because every one of them, of course, have their students. Our students are their children, and of course, nobody loves their children as much as they do as parents. And we know that having them alongside us as partners in raising their children is an important role for us to play. There's so many different things. Again, that's on the report. The many, many different ways that we connect with families is outlined in the report. And the next steps are to continue with our expansion and training of having digital forms on all of our school websites, ensuring the Ministry of Education reporting guidelines are followed while still being creative in their implementation. And there are a number of other ones that I know you can take a look at if you're interested.
Are there any questions? Comments?
All right.
Great.
Right, and the last one is collaborations and partnerships. Our district will pursue opportunities that enhance collaborations with associations, organizations, businesses, and community resource people. And I love the quote here, none of us is as smart as all of us. The background for this is that the mandate of many of our community agencies, governments, and associations intersects with, in many ways, with our mandate of successfully preparing students for their futures. The impact on our ability to achieve the board's mission is significant when we work together with our community partners. So there's a whole list in the report of many of the key community partners that we work with. And in terms of next steps, we'll certainly continue to collaborate with community partners to meet the needs of our district and our community, and of course of our students. And we'll continue to report on all of those in the context of all of our strategic goals as they are presented during the year. And now I am finished the strategic reports, Chair Amaral. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions arising out of the strategic plan reports? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to administrative regulations.
So the first one, again, these are discussed in committee, is the conflict of interest in the personnel category. It's regulation 2050. The rationale for this is that the board recognizes that all staff in a management or supervisory position perform their work efficiently, impartially, and with integrity. This regulation refines those expectations regarding conflicts of interest for all district administrators. This was discussed in committee, and I'd be happy to respond to any questions. And this will be circulating for 8 weeks, so we will have other opportunities to discuss it as needed as well.
Are there any questions about this regulation? No. Well, I do want to thank Superintendent Bocking for his work on this regulation. And as I commented in committee, I am really encouraged to see a change to more positive language and language around modeled behavior instead of what we do not want to see and it framed in the negative. And I really do appreciate that because I think it lives our values at every level, because I know that we approach education for our students in a positive, strengths-based way, and there's no reason we cannot manage and support our employees in the same fashion. So really excited about the evolution of this regulation and hope that we do receive some comments if there are ideas on how we can make it even more positive and supportive and strengthen it. So thank you, Superintendent Bocking.
Thank you, Chair Amaral. The next regulation is 2150, working alone. I'll ask Director Bishop to speak to this one, please.
Hi, this regulation formalizes a set of processes and procedures that have existed in the district for a number of years now. Whenever staff come in and sign in outside of regular working hours, and they're going to be working alone, we do have a procedure for people to sign in and out as part of that. This helps us be in compliance with WorkSafe and ensure that all staff are safe. We work with both our school-based staff as well as the maintenance staff for their regular work days, both after hours, weekends, but also if they're working in isolated conditions. This regulation will help encompass all of those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the working alone? No. I think, again, as we discussed in committee, it's really important to revisit the working alone policy. And I think particularly for our staff, it's really good to review how we keep you safe and how you can keep yourself safe at work. And if this is not fitting with what you understand or know to be true, then this is your opportunity to provide us feedback about how we can support you to be more safe at work when working alone.
We have one more regulation. Secretary Treasurer Westwick, if you'd like to speak to renovations for us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. This one, as presented in committee, has only very minor updates. It was originally drafted in response to some concerns from parents due to a renovation. And given that it was up for review, we thought it was a good idea to circulate, even though the changes are only minor, to see if there are further requests or further concerns that we might receive through this consultation approach. So we'll keep you posted. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments about this regulation change? Trustee Ruth.
I just thought that this might, I don't know if it's generally discussed at DPAC, but it might be something that's a good conversation to have at DPAC as well. I know we don't set the agenda there, but just to kind of bring up what's going on so that it's all cohesive.
Superintendent Blocking?
When we have regulations that are quite likely to be of interest to parents, I do inform DPAC about those. And thank you for that tip. I'm not sure that I would have brought that without that mention, Trustee Ruth. So thank you. I'll bring that to DPAC.
Trustee Leach?
Yeah, just looking at this one in particular, and also the conflict of interest and working alone, actually thinking about how important it is for us to keep reviewing these over periods of time, because so much changes in a couple of years, and just to make these living documents rather than something that gets stored away as, you know, that's our reg for that. And, you know, so yeah, it just reminded me how important it is for us to continue to review them. So thanks everybody for being willing to do that. Yeah.
All right, are we ready to move on? If so, I'd like to, oh, Superintendent Blocking? Nope. If not, I'd like to pass it on to Secretary Treasurer Westwick for the report.
Thanks. I just wanted to update trustees with respect to budget timelines. There's some indication that the provincial budget could come as late as sort of mid-April. And so we've been advised by ministry staff that to prepare, it's likely that there will be sort of a status quo provincial allocation budget. So labor settlement will be rolled into the budget, but unlikely that any new programs would be announced until later in the year. So that's interesting. We'll be discussing budget further, bringing our list of some of our early recommendations potentially, but also reporting on any information delivered this Friday. There is meant to be an announcement at I think 9:30 a.m. There's a call for STs. We'll be presenting both that and our analysis of that at the March Operations Committee. Onto the outdoor learning structures, just an update that this project is still in the works. There is still, unfortunately, there's some further delay due to delivery. So we'll keep you posted when those structures arrive. We have secured a contractor for some site prep work. Seashell Learning Center, strong start in daycare renovation. Good news there, that project is looking like it's going to be done basically within a couple of months now, which means that and we're working with the YMCA, firming up our license agreement, and they're hoping to begin operations either over the summer or early in the school year. So bit of time to get up and running and operational. So I don't want to commit them to a certain timeline, but they're certainly they're working on it. And it is expected to come in on time and on budget. Similarly with West Seashell, we're on track for that project. We're going to be relocating some portables over the summer, and it should be substantially completed for September. So really excited about that coming together. And there will be, we're working on the daycare license with the YMCA for that site that's going to be present there. And we do have an application in through the MCFD capital grants for some equipment to help equip that site, as the Ministry of Education doesn't fund equipment as part of NLC space. And I think that's the end of my report. There's some pictures in the report that really show how well it's coming together. And yeah, we're really excited to see that come to fruition. So yeah, happy to take any questions.
Vice Chair Hamblin?
Struggling. I'm just wondering if you could give a little bit more information about the outdoor structures, just because I know that there's curious parents and teachers about that. Have any of them at any sites been started, or are we waiting for some stuff, or are we waiting for everything to come?
They're all ordered at the same time from the same vendor. So they're on their way, and when they arrive, they'll arrive in one fell swoop. So that some of the site prep is either being planned or has started. I think still waiting for delivery of those structures. But yeah, that's unfortunately that's all I have to report. We're waiting on delivery.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Secretary Treasurer Westbrick and his report? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to board reports. I'll start with my own, which is submitted as written. It focuses on equity and the work that we have been doing over the last few months to explore the value of equity. And I'm really excited about some of the work that we're doing as a board and as a district. And I'm going to pass it off to Vice Chair Hampett, who also prepared a report about the equity scan that's found in the package.
Yeah, so many people know that we're embarked onto a 3-year equity scan, but I'm not sure in the wider public. I know most people inside of School District 46 know about this, so I just wanted to make sure that we reported out on it. About half the districts in BC have already participated. Our district, we've been given permission to conduct the scan over 3 years rather than 1. So that will allow for richer and deeper dialogues. And that's District Principal Malman that advocated for that. And so we're working with the ministry, and there is a steering committee. The next meeting will be in likely mid-April. And there's 32 questions, of which are asked across stakeholder groups throughout the district. And the first 11 have been chosen through actually a vote at a very diverse meeting. And those 11 questions are inside the report. So I look forward to reporting again in a few months after there's another steering committee meeting and after we start receiving the data back from the community of the answers to the questions that we're starting with, and look forward to letting you guys know how that goes.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, Trustee Leach.
I wonder, Vice Chair Hanvin, if we could see the other questions, see the whole 32 questions. That would be interesting for me to, if you could let us see those at some point.
Certainly, there's an attachment. I realize it was probably a link that I sent out, so it wasn't in a PDF around the full scan straight from the ministry, but I will for certainly send that again.
Thank you. Great.
Are there other questions before we move along? I do also want to say that Trustee Ruth attended a coast-wide Team Sunshine Coast meeting focused on housing. And I just wanted, there's a call to action in there, and I want to pass it to Trustee Ruth to provide a quick update for us.
Thank you. So as the call to action, it was developed by a group of representatives from organizations throughout the coast. Basically, what we're looking for is ways of course, dealing with the housing crisis, but they wanted the certain representatives to bring back to the committee these 6, I think it's 6. Let me just double check. So yeah, these 6 items for call to action. We did have a few issues in that they wanted us to take a vote right then and there and to have that physical discussion or that actual discussion. And of course, it needs to come to, I was like, no, it needs to be brought to my board. I can't speak for my board without discussion, as well as there was a small a small issue with one of the other communities that was there that had quorum, and so if they were voting on something, they would actually be like doing a vote, and they couldn't do that without public attendance. So so these have been brought to our all individual groups, community groups, etc. And we're looking at these addressing. So we've got number one is ensure that all actions we take are done through the lens of decolonization, health and well-being, equity and inclusion, racial and social justice, and ecological integrity. That we empower our communities and use our role as leaders to create opportunities for shared understanding, connection, and community building. We facilitate the construction and use of homes to house everyone in our community, regardless of their socioeconomic status. Leverage the interconnection of issues, and to take those opportunities, to look for opportunities to solve complex challenges that generate multiple benefits and solutions. Invest our collective resources and experiences to deliver short and long-term solutions that will have the greatest impact, and to help us go further, faster together. And lastly, to take meaningful, incremental actions as outlined in the Housing Need Assessment Implementation Framework before the end of 2021. So basically what they want to take back is that we as School District 46 specifically are willing to work on this committee, to work with this program, and to help be a part of that, the housing crisis.
Thank you, Trustee Ruth. Are there any questions arising out of that? Vice Chair Hamblin?
I'm just wondering if that's going to come to committee.
It can, for sure. That's what I was kind of thinking. It's not going to be, I don't think the next meeting is until April, so I'm not sure if we can get it into this month's committee meeting. But you know, I don't know if it's something that actually out and out requires a vote, or if it's just a consensus type thing, and or what kind of discussions we could have, and or how long they would take. That would be up to our chair.
I did think that housing was on the committee as a whole agenda, but I can double check.
Because I'd love to take a look at those calls to action again, if possible, if that could be brought to where it is bookmarked on the agenda, that would be lovely.
Yeah, there is also more information. This is just the call to action to put in the board report. So that would be something that I could bring forward, or I think Sam's going to be working with it as well. So it's something that can be brought to the committee. More information for sure.
Are there any other questions before we move on? All right, seeing none, the BCST report. Trustee St. Marie has submitted this in writing, and she's not here this evening to speak to it. So are there any questions arising out of her report? Yes, Trustee Ruth.
Not out of her report. I just wanted to add about AGM in respect to the PLC part of it, that we'll be doing very similar to the academy where we did the pre-homework. So we're going to be having stuff sent out to us that we will have read it, and then we'll come into the academy, or sorry, into the AGM with that information. As far as AGM itself goes, there's going to be at least 48 motions. We're not sure still on as to who's going to be running for director, as that is finalized on the 16th.
Thank you. And moving on to BCPC, which is you, Trustee Ruth.
Hi, me again. So let me just grab this. So I did send out Director Bishop's Cole's notes, which was I was very thankful for. I think after a year, we should all have learned how to do *6 to keep our phones quiet. Yeah, it's just basically as I sent out, there's most of it is, it's not confidential for the staff, but most of it is, I mean, for trustees, but most of it is housekeeping, et cetera, et cetera. So if you need any further information on that, I am more than happy to send something off.
Are there any questions for Trustee Ruth for BCPC? All right, seeing none, student trustee report. Abby.
Hello. So just starting off, we will be doing an anti-poverty or poverty topic survey that we'll send out to students just in support of the anti-poverty ad hoc committee. Our next event is also the student forum that's happening in the beginning of April. So we'll be supporting with that. We'll be over Zoom asking students from all of the secondary schools various questions. We also started doing tour videos for the incoming grade 7s transitioning to high school. Just a welcoming video and doing tours of the high schools. And yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of students are very excited for spring break. Thought I should include that. Very well-deserved break.
Are there questions or comments for Abby? Yes, Trustee Ruth.
Just a statement that I know everybody's looking forward to spring break, but let's not make it as long as it was last year.
Yes, please no. I'd rather not.
Yes. Well, I know that the ad hoc committee will look forward to student input in the development of anti-poverty policy. So thank you for connecting with students about policy work. It's great to hear that people are interested in that. Moving on, we have the notes from the Committee of the Whole meeting. I chaired this meeting, and there, I think, was some hail moving across the Sunshine Coast as we were doing the meetings, and particularly it interrupted and completely canceled one of our school tours. So I can't imagine. We were foiled by weather for a virtual school tour. But it was wonderful to connect with some schools and find out what they're doing and meet with the principals. So it's exciting that that has started. So I want to thank Superintendent Bocking and the directors for making that happen for us, because it has been a very different year with not being in the school and not being connected to students. And I do look forward to this in subsequent Committee of the Wholes. It'll be great. We were also busy. There's a number of recommendations that have come out of Committee of the Whole. So if we just want to take some time to look at them, and if we're going to start motioning these recommendations. So we started with a discussion around the school calendar. So thank you to Director Bishop for that. Trustee Ruth, are you looking to motion?
Yes, I would like to motion that we approve the 2021-2022 school calendar.
Trustee Haynes, is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. We also had a discussion about the letters of support policy. And so, Trustee Leach, did you have anything you wanted to add there?
No, just to make a motion that we approve the letter of support policy as presented at the Committee of the Whole.
Great, seconded by Trustee Ruth. And discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Next, we talked about evaluation of district administration, and Superintendent Bocking and I, although predominantly Superintendent Bocking, worked hard to combine these two policies to make something a little bit more cohesive. And Superintendent Bocking, did you want to say anything any more about combining the policies?
First, that it was a team effort. that we worked on together. Appreciated our partnership on that. I think it is important to have that really clear outline of what that evaluation structure is for all of us, and happy to work on that. And I hope it's clear for everyone, and good structure for us to move forward with.
So, do I have a motion? Vice Chair Hammond, seconded by Trustee Ruth. Is there any discussion about this? Yes, Trustee Ruth.
Just a quick query on one of the things that we have been discussing over the last little while is the connecting the one to the other and the bylaws to the policies and whatnot. So has this been looked into as a whole with the connection to 14 and now to 10, et cetera, like the follow through or the tail end of it?
Well, I believe because we're combining these, they become a brand new policy number.
Right.
Because those two have been repealed. And I don't know if, I don't have it in front of me, if we have referenced any appropriate regulations that would be attached to this policy. Yeah, Superintendent Walking?
I believe policy 14 was repealed and they've just been moved into just 10. Erica, can you confirm that for me? So 14 is gone and we basically edited 14 into 10. And in terms of the connection to policy, it is linked to, within the document to Regulation 2050, which is the administration regulation for conflict of interest.
Excellent. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? Carried. And lastly, there were some updates to the sexual orientation and gender identity policy. Director Kerr, did you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, the updates were small but important, and I think it lends itself to what Trustee Leach was saying earlier about that opportunity to revise policy and regulation and to keep them current. So the revisions directly were to update the gender identification language and as well to include mental health concerns as an issue that is related, that students have related to some of the challenges that they may face. So making sure to recognize those pieces.
Thank you. Trustee Ruth?
I would like to recommend that we approve the updated sexual orientation and gender identity policy.
Seconded by Vice Chair Hammond. Is there any further discussion? Trustee Haynes? No? All right. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? Great, carried. All right, the Education Committee. So Trustee Gerard, over to you.
Thank you. So it was once again a very jam-packed committee meeting on February the 23rd. And we had basically 3 presentations that were really great by a lot of great people in the district. And we started out with, I've got my Education Committee notes here, professional development, and we had Melissa Bell and her team, a great team of folks from the district. And Superintendent Balking really encapsulated through his report all of the items on the agenda and spoke to each one of those. So I don't really need to go into everything individually, but it was once again a rousing conversation, and we fought for time and got out just after 4 o'clock, but we did well. And there were 5 of the 7, I believe, 5 of the 7 trustees involved, that attended that committee meeting, regardless of whether they were on the committee or not. And it's always great to see everybody and have some really good conversations. So we ended with Superintendent Balking and Stephanie Marowski, although we didn't give them very much time, did a wonderful presentation on family engagement and spoke to all of the ways which he also alluded to in his report to all of the ways that we communicate with our families in the school district and the community, and it's all great stuff. So that's pretty much for me. So submit it as written, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, Trustee Gerard. Are there any questions? All right. Seeing none, I'd like to pass it over to Trustee Haynes for the Operations Committee.
So again, we had a very busy operations committee. We started with partnerships, goal 3C, and we moved into enrollment projections, which we're expecting some marginal enrollment increases over the next few years. Secretary Treasurer updated us with the budget considerations, and the list is there, which I encourage you to take a look at. What else? We also talked about food and the need for food in our schools, and that there is some support that might be coming through the provincial budget, and that Director Kerr has agreed to update us with what is happening with food in schools, and I think that's happening at the next Operations Committee. She's nodding her head, yes. Okay, good. And then where else? Where are we here? Oh yes, transportation review. So we're continuing to talk about transportation. Secretary Treasurer gave us some different options, and they're going to collect some data on those options and bring them back to us for review. Okay, where are we at here? Regulation for review, renovations, we talked about that already. And there is a recommendation here. So the SCRD notice of application for 1057 Roberts Creek Road. So we talked about it in committee, and we agreed that we might want to take additional action. What that action is, I'm not quite sure of. So I think we talked about possibly having a meeting with the board chair and the people involved, or potentially talking through getting more information about this facility. I'm not quite sure if there are any recommendations that people want to make. There has been a letter that's been sent with the 300 meter buffer zone and the signage request. I'm not sure what else we want to do there.
So are people who attended that committee wanting to make any recommendations around further action besides the letter that we have sent out? Trustee Leach?
We did talk about perhaps also writing a letter to the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board of BC, as they are the licensing agency and that's it comes through the SCRD. So that's something I would like to see, is that we would directly as a school district write to the BC Liquor Control Board and inform them about our preferences for the 300 meter buffer and our concerns that this is very, very close to a school site. So that's, unless anybody has any other suggestions, I could make that motion that be the further action we take.
Would you like to move that?
I will move that, yes. Yeah.
Is there a seconder? Trustee Haynes, discussion? Trustee Ruth, did you have a comment?
So did we amend, was that motion amended, or like on what the additional action was? I do not want to vote for a motion that just says additional action. That could be, pretty much anything specific.
The motion on the table, from what I understand, is to write the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board to make them aware of our wishes to maintain a 300 meter buffer between a school and a licensed distributor or retail
facility.
That's the motion on the table.
Okay, I have nothing against that at all. It's the term additional action was too loosey-goosey for me.
Yeah, is there any further discussion about the motion made by Trustee Leach? None? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. So moving on, I chaired the ad hoc trustee honoring committee on February 18th. It was a short meeting, but I think it was a rather productive meeting. There are two recommendations that came out of that meeting, and one is to continue with the motion that was made by our previous board to increase the honorarium on an annual basis, consistent with the Vancouver Consumer Price Index. So we'd like to continue that. And the second recommendation was that we had a discussion about honorariums in general, and determining whether or not our honorarium needs to change based on an equity lens. So particularly looking at issues related to gender, the gender pay gap, equity in terms of size and number of staff, and responsibilities that the board has when compared to other local governments. So those were the two recommendations that came out of our committee, and appointed to the committee is Trustee Haynes and Trustee Leach. So I don't know. Yes, Trustee Haynes.
I'd like to move that the board consider gender equity and other issues related to equity and compensation when considering adjustments to the trustee honorarium.
Is there a seconder? Vice Chair Hammond, is there any discussion about this? Trustee Ruth?
So I'm just wondering, is this in addition to the CPI index? Like, I'm not quite sure if this is about the honorarium or if this is about, like, I don't understand how the recommendation actually works is my issue, the gender equality.
Yeah, so the recommendation is that we explore our honorarium and determine whether or not there needs to be any changes to it based on gender equity. And so it's separate from the first recommendation of the meeting, which is to stay with the CPI.
Right.
So at a later date, that we would be moving to enter into the discussion at the ad hoc trustee honorarium committee. So we talked about collecting some information about what local governments on the Sunshine Coast provide in terms of honorarium. We take a look at how many female to male trustees there are, how many general, what's the gender or differences that arise in politicians' appointments, and whether or not we have arrived at a suitable honorarium.
So if I may, so this recommendation, does that not cancel out the previous recommendation to align to the trustee honorarium to the Vancouver CPI index? Does this one not say that we're going to look further into other avenues of working with the trustee honorarium?
It doesn't cancel it out. It's just a recommendation to have a further discussion. And so I have a speakers list, which is Superintendent Westwick and then Trustee Haynes.
Perfect, thank you.
Secretary Treasurer Westwick, not Superintendent, just
You got promoted again.
Thanks. Don't want it. I was going to make the same point on process, that this was a recommendation to have a further discussion, not to make any change to policy or to compensation levels, but to basically the intent was that it come back before the board to determine, rather than sort of having a direct referral to another committee discussion, that it be brought back to the board to determine whether the board is interested in having that discussion. That's what that, yeah, my understanding.
Yeah. Trustee Haynes and then Trustee Gerard.
That was all I was going to say, except he said it much more eloquently, so thank you.
And Trustee Gerard.
He did say it, but I'm just wondering if, since we're going with the first recommendation that we made to keep to the status quo, that for now, then maybe if we could just change the language a bit in the second recommendation, just to state that in the future, like something to indicate the two of them kind of just roll together for me. So I just make, that recommendation that the board consider gender equity and other issues related to equity and compensation in the future or at a later date or something, just to indicate that it's not all going to happen at the same time.
Are you proposing an amendment to the current motion?
I guess I am.
And that and the amendment is when considering adjustments in the future?
I think we have to be a bit careful not to postpone it in the gathering of the honorarium committee, but just to be able to say that it's sort of to follow the current recommendation or whatever, so that it comes up for discussion. I don't know the exact language, but just to separate the two.
I guess I'm still dealing with the amendment in terms of the exact language that you'd like to see. Trustee Gerard?
I'm reading it. I've got it over here.
I see Trustee Haynes and Trustee Hanvin, or Vice Chair Hanvin.
So if anybody else wants to discuss how they feel about it in changing it.
Well, I think the first thing is, do we have a seconder? Like, I guess I want to get really clear on the amended language to see if we have someone who seconds that amended language. So that the board consider gender equity and other issues related to equity and compensation when considering adjustments to the trustee honorarium. Even to further recommendation 1 or first, or they're two separate recommendations.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Trustee Haynes?
I think, am I allowed to amend my own motion?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I wonder if we said that the board explore or discuss gender equality and other issues related to equity and compensation at a future committee of the whole or something like that. Is that helpful for people?
Is that the amendment you'd wanted to make?
Sure. Yes, I will make that amendment.
Sorry, can you read that again?
So I move that the board discuss gender equality and other issues related to equity and compensation at a future committee of the whole.
To clarify, is that at a future committee of the whole after considering adjustments to the trustee honorarium piece?
Yeah, so I'm removing the considering adjustments to the honorarium because really we just want to have that conversation. And then once we've had that conversation, then we can actually talk about how we want to move through that in the honorarium piece. That's my take on it anyway.
Trustee Hammond, are you seconding that?
I think we should still add with relation to the trustee honorarium, because otherwise the motion is too large. So, because otherwise we could be having a discussion about gender equality at the next committee of the whole and all issues related to equity, but we need to contain it to the trustee honorarium somehow. So I'm just hoping that maybe Trustee Haynes wants to tack that on somewhere.
Can I just jump in? If the intent is that this go to a committee for discussion, could a motion to refer to committee would be probably easier. Than amendments to amendments. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we've amended. There have been 2 proposed amendments, and kind of getting lost in the original motion. And I do want to say that my memory of that discussion was we did do this at the ad hoc and decided that we would bring it back to ad hoc for discussion if the board wished for the ad hoc to consider these considerations. If that's my memory of that. I don't know, Trustee Haynes and Trustee Leach, if you have comment on that. Trustee Leach?
I'm just holding back on making any comments until I know where we're at with with the, so the two amendments were not seconded, so the first motion is still on the table, is that correct?
Yeah, which was, I believe, as written in the agenda package.
Right. So and we have a seconder for that, and
because we're in discussion, yes.
Right. So just to maybe help us make that, maybe help us decide on that motion, where we move to the second recommendation right away. But the first recommendation, it may add clarity to the second one, because the first one, if we put, when we make that motion, which I'm willing to do as soon as we can, if we put a timeline in there, and we talk about for this year, and then it's obvious then that the second recommendation is about in the future. So, so just to be clear on that. So I'm willing to make that second motion after so I'm in support of this recommendation as written, actually, to go forward.
Is there further discussion? Superintendent Bocking and then Trustee Haynes.
I guess just for clarification, is this something that the board would like to discuss in the context of the current compensation piece? Because my understanding of policy is that the trustee honorarium discussion happens once per term. And if it's not dealt with now in terms of gender equity and all of the rest of that, then it is the next board that's going to be discussing this, not this current board. So if you do want to discuss it now, I wonder if it's not best to take the whole package back, have the discussion about gender equity at the ad hoc committee, and then decide whether you want the other recommendation for compensation related to the CPI. So start with, have that discussion, and I'm not sure if that's, and I apologize, I wasn't part of the committee, so I shouldn't weigh in like that, but I'm just curious.
So my understanding is that the policy reads that it has to be done at least once per term, but doesn't limit the frequency of the number of times, and perhaps Secretary Treasurer Westwick can clarify that.
My understanding as well. Yeah, I'll confirm on in the policy.
Okay, Trustee Haynes and then Trustee Ruth.
My understanding of this at that committee was that we actually wanted to have that discussion because we thought it might be interesting for the whole board to be a part of, just as an interesting piece to look at for us, and not necessarily just the three of us at the honorarium committee. That was my recollection of that.
Trustee Ruth?
So I think I will be voting against this recommendation as originally written, and whether we want to make a new recommendation to further discuss it at committee of the whole in respect to the trustee honorarium, that's a whole different ball of wax. But as written, I don't think that's the message that I agree with.
Are there any further comments or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All right, all those opposed? Okay. Moving on to the other recommendations. Trustee Leach?
I actually have a question before I make the motion to Secretary Treasurer Westwick. What is our fiscal year for that this will apply to? I think it should be in the in the motion, so to make it clearer.
Historically, we've applied these after Vancouver CPI is released, I believe January. So we're going on a calendar year for these increases.
Okay. So this would be for 2021.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I make a motion that for 2021 calendar year, we will continue to align the trustee honorarium with the Vancouver Consumer Price Index.
Seconded. Vice Chair Hammond, and discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. All right, moving on to the Ad Hoc Poverty Policy Committee. Right, and chair of that committee is Trustee St. Marie, and she is not here. The minutes were part of the package. I think one item for discussion here is the terms of reference for that ad hoc. I don't have the full wording in front of me, but it is that the policy creates a lens to support decision-making and prioritization of district initiatives to ensure that staff and students are not disproportionately impacted by poverty. Are there any? Yep, Trustee Leach.
So there are other, the terms of reference is actually more than just that statement, is that right? I don't see it.
When I looked up at the minutes or the notes for that meeting, I'll just move to them. That is what is recorded under terms of reference. The minutes describe the stakeholders
yes,
that we would be consulting with, which includes Healthy Schools, Indigenous Education Advisory Circle, District DPAC, Principals and Vice Principals, Teachers Association, QP, Student Leadership Team, Sunshine Coast Community Services, and the Ministry of Children and Family Development. And if I go up,
I see that. Thank you, Chair Emerald. Yeah.
Pardon?
Okay, that was just I see that. Thank you. Yeah, that was just my question. Thanks.
Yes, Trustee Ruth.
Absolutely not a question, sorry, but I just want to make note that it was wonderful to see our student trustee as a part of the committee. Well done.
Any other further discussion? Yes, Trustee Leach.
So I was just going to make the motion that that the terms of reference as written in the ad hoc anti-poverty committee notes be adopted for this committee.
Do I have a seconder? Trustee Ruth? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. All right, moving on to item 7, which is correspondence. We have one letter. And Secretary Treasurer Roswick, did you want to speak to that letter?
Yeah, there's targeted funding that we receive each year for support of Indigenous education. Those funds were underspent to the tune of about $29,599 at June 30th, 2020. And in alignment with district or with provincial policy, we're required to request the ability to carry it forward. And that we did so, and that was dated September 29th, 2020. And we received a response in February that we've been approved to carry those funds forward.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to receive? Trustee Ruth, seconded by Trustee Gerard. All those in favor? Great. Carried. This is going to be a challenging item on the agenda, which is questions and inquiries from the public. So we do encourage you, if you have questions and inquiries arising out of tonight's agenda, to please email questions@sg.46.bc, and we will find a way to answer and report out on your question. Our next public meeting is April 14th, 2021, and we look forward to that. We hope that in between then we all enjoy spring break. Moving on to committee agendas. Looking at those, are there any amendments to the committee agenda? Yes, Vice Chair Hammond.
Just that I think now is the right time to suggest that we bring to agenda setting a full board conversation in regards to the honorarium in relation to equity, and take a note of where we could find time to talk about that, the 7 of us together. So committee of the whole.
So I think one of the slotted times that we talked about was June or September, potentially. So I don't know if you're wanting to move that.
No,
Pardon?
I will bring it to agenda setting.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we've got enough time now. I think unless someone else wants to move it, but I think we have enough time to be able to just take note.
Are there any other? Yes, Trustee Haynes?
The the Ad Hoc Arts in Schools Policy Committee. Eric had sent us an email and it said, I think it said 7, which I actually thought it was 5, and this says 4:30. So can you clarify the timing on that?
I was having problems with that meeting, wasn't I? Yeah, no, I had suggested shifting it to 5 o'clock to accommodate your schedules, Trustee Haynes. So that was where I have it in the calendar. Unfortunately, every time I try to write that time down, I get it wrong.
And yes, Trustee Ruth.
I was just going to say the email that I got said 7 o'clock, and I responded to that saying that was not one of my choices. I could not do that. But if it's at 5 o'clock or whatever you just said, then I can do it at least for 2 hours. But I can't do 7.
Yeah, I do have it in the calendar. Sorry, I have it in the calendar for. Am I looking at the plan here?
Am I blocking?
It's for 5 on my calendar.
Yeah.
So it's 5?
5.
Are there any other changes or amendments to the committee agendas? No. All right. Do I have someone to move that we approve the committee? Trustee Leach and Trustee Gerard. Seconded. All those in favor? Carried. And the last item on our agenda is adjournment. Trustee Ruth, Trustee Gerard, all those in favor? Well, I want to thank everyone for attending tonight's meeting, and I am sad that we weren't live and had questions, but I hope that we hear from you, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful spring break, and we'll see you all next month.
Yeah, have a good spring break. Well deserved, everybody. Thanks so much.
Good meeting you guys. Good committees. Well done.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.